where Alex Rodriguez first learned to play the game of baseball. Inspired by his father at a young age, it was his dream to play for the major leagues. Now, after a stellar career in baseball, he's starting a new chapter in his life, broadcasting. I was fortunate enough to sit down with him and talk about the aspects of his career and the factors that played into him becoming who he is today. Here's our interview with Alex Rodriguez. It's very nice to meet you, Mr. Rodriguez, or can I call you Alex?
You call me Alex, of course.
Well, first off, it's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Ben.
So I'll be interviewing you today on your life and different things and your opinions on certain things. So let's get right into it. Did you always know that you were meant to play baseball, and when did you realize that baseball was your calling?
I knew I loved baseball from the time I was in Pampers. My father played baseball, and I come from a Dominican background. And in our country, baseball is a way of life, is a religion. I remember as a little kid listening to the Yankee games and the Mets games on TV, listening to Phil Rizzuto and listening to Ralph Kiner and Tim McCarver. And that's how I grew up. The love was always there. I was a late bloomer, so it wasn't until I was about 15 that I felt like I had a real shot to either A, get a college scholarship, or B, to go beyond that.
You've probably had many critics in your life. People who always told you what you were doing wrong or what you should do instead to improve. Which one of these critics or people helped you realize your full potential on the field?
Well, I think critics are always going to be there. And I always thought they were a necessary commodity in my career. It helped me stay laser focused, and it fueled me to prove them wrong. I remember as a young lad, and when I was in Columbus and Westminster, people said that I was too tall to play shortstop. And then they used to say that I didn't have a strong enough arm to play shortstop. Or they would say that I didn't hit enough to make it to the next level. And I always took that and just ran with it. And I thought in many ways, all the great critics that I've had has been a thorn on my side.
What changes did you make, if any, after you were suspended and couldn't play during the 2014 season?
Well, I made a lot of changes. Number one, serving a full-year suspension was a very important part of my life. It was a pivotal time because it made me realize, what I was doing wrong. It made me press the pause button and change. And when I mean change, I mean a paradigm shift because it was necessary. And what I realized is that I wanted to come back a different person. I wanted to come back full of appreciation and grateful to be one of 750. That is not his birthright, but is a true gift to be one of 750 major leaguers in the world.
That's amazing, and that's an accomplishment in itself, so
Thank you.
Congratulations. Throughout your childhood and your career, I'm sure you've been through some tough times. What were some of your darkest moments, and how did you deal with them? Can you recall some of the people who helped you along the way?
Yeah, I almost remember everyone that helped me along the way. The darkest moment in my career and life happens to be the same, which it was, serving my suspension in 2014. And, I think when you go through such a personal struggle, it's truly an opportunity to grow and to look in the mirror and be accountable. Accountable for your actions, accountable for those you've hurt and disappointed. And, Ben, I had to make a lot of difficult phone calls. I had to address my family, my daughters, and without questions, the hardest mountain I've ever had to climb. But what I found is that as I, attempted to get to the other side of the pond, I realized that when you go to sleep and when you wake up at night, that appreciation and being grateful is the single most important thing that you can have. And being aware that you never want to go back and have to explain yourself to those who support you, those who love you, and especially your daughters or your mother.
So speaking of your daughters, you said addressing your family and most importantly your daughters. How did that go down? How did you do that?
Well, it went down in this room actually, and it was a very difficult conversation. And I got through it, and their mother was in the room, and she helped out a great deal. And again, I think the opportunity to be honest and raw, as raw as you can be with two young ladies, I think is important because I also want them to be honest with their father, me, and their mother, Cynthia, when they run into some challenges.
When has Alex been the happiest in his life? If you look at recent headlines, you could say it's now.
I would say it's right now, right here with Ben from Belen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's an honor.
Yeah, it really is. You know, Ben, one of the things you realize is, look, I've been in the baseball business for over 25 years. I've been in the business for over 15 years. I'm now entering the media world in my 40s, and you know, I can't wait to see what happens when I'm in my 50s.
And I understand you just started your contract with Fox, so we're both pretty new to this. I just started reporting, you have, so we're going through this together. So, you have had a star-studded career full of ups and downs. Throughout all of this, do you have any regrets?
Well, look, without a question, I have regrets off the field. On the field, I feel incredibly fortunate and happy that I was able to play, you know, almost 23 years in a career that the average is, you know, 5.5 years. So, you know, I grew up in Miami. When I was your age, I had a single parent. My mother was my inspiration. She had 2 jobs. She served tables at night on Coral Way right by Miami. And never in a million years did I think that some skinny kid with Dominican background, with a single parent, where we didn't have a lot of money or anything like that, can never, you know, have his dream come true and play at such a high level for so long. So I'm grateful for that.
Sports Illustrated had an article that featured you last year titled A-Rod, Act 2, his playing career may be over, but Alex Rodriguez is a TV star now. They were talking about your breakout role as an analyst during the World Series, and they thought that you were great, and they spoke amazingly of you in the article. And apparently Fox agreed because they ended up offering you a contract. And you have a similar role this year. How does it feel to be back with Pete Rose? And do you have a newfound respect for the press?
You know, that's such a great question, Ben. It really is. You know, they say hindsight's 20/20, and in retrospect, I look back, and being part of the media now for 2.5 years, I wish that the league would demand players prior to them starting their career to do an internship and be part of the media. And I think it would be so helpful for both sides, because if a player understood what the media responsibility is, I think it would be so helpful for their careers on both sides. It would be win-win. I also wish that reporters like yourself and other smart reporters, especially in New York, would actually have to play Major League Baseball for a year. And it would help them, understand why baseball and hitting that little baseball is the most difficult thing to do in all of sports. So yeah.
I'm sure that at your time at A-Rod Corp, you had some tough decisions to make. Who is your go-to person for advice on a personal and or business level?
You know, that's another good question. The thing about it is, Ben, is that, you know, I came up from a single parent. I formally learned how to play baseball at the Boys and Girls Club in Miami when I was about a 9-year-old boy. There was a gentleman there by the name of Eddie Rodriguez, who's still there. He's been there almost 40 years. And when you think of icons and people that have really made a difference, you know, contributions to a community like Miami, he's it. Then I was fortunate to then have Rich Hoffman at Westminster, my high school. And then I kind of won the lottery with having Lou Piniella be my coach and my teacher for 7 years. with the Seattle Mariners. So I've been a beneficiary of great mentors and some great educators. The same I can say for in business, where I try to surround myself with the greatest minds I can find, who have a moral compass and who have a track record that usually goes back 2 or 3 decades. And some of them like baseball, so they get to ask me a bunch of baseball questions, and I get to ask them a bunch of business questions.
You just brought up the Boys and Girls Club, and I want to bring that up because you've said in the past that the Boys and Girls Club is a big part of who you are today and why you ended up playing Major League Baseball. Can you tell me from what age or how early you started playing baseball there, or how you kind of broke into it, and what kind of role did it play in your childhood?
Look, in many ways, the Boys and Girls Club saved my life. And I know that's a drastic saying, but when you have your mother that starts work at 8 in the morning and finishes at 11 o'clock at night and sometimes at midnight, I always worry about kids, what happens from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. There's plenty of trouble out there in the streets. And what I learned is I had a place that loved me, a place that I felt safe, a place that I can do homework, interact with friends, and learn how to play baseball at night under the lights, which I thought as a 9-year-old, as a 10-year-old, it was an absolute dream to play under the lights. And in our world, it was like, Yankee Stadium. It was on US 1 and 32nd Street. And that to me signified heaven, it signified happiness, and it signified hope.
Do you think you'll ever forget August 12th, 2016? I know where I was. Here's a photo.
Oh, wow. This is so cool. Oh, look at that, guys. That's so cool. Ben, I'll never forget this day because, winding down a career that, lasted almost 23 years. And for the Steinbrenner family, House specifically, to give me an opportunity to finish my career under the sun, in this case the moon, and to do it in front of my daughters, my mother, and the greatest fans in the world, Yankee fans. It was certainly a night that I'll never forget.
How do you want today's kids, which are tomorrow's athletes, to remember you on and off the field? What should they know about you?
Again, I'm a kid from Miami that came from humble beginnings, like a lot of kids out there today. I had plenty of doubters. I had big dreams. I didn't have any money. But I certainly had big dreams and big thoughts. And I had a lot of perseverance. I reached one of my milestones early on when I signed a letter of intent to go to the University of Miami and play shortstop and quarterback. And then a few months later, I was drafted 1-1. And I've had this incredible long career that along the way I stumbled a few times and got up and stumbled and got up. And I think what I'm most proud of, Ben, is the fact that I did not let my mistakes define me. And it's always important what happens after your mistakes. And, that goes for me. But I know there's a lot of people out there that feel like they've made mistakes and they can never come back. But I'm here to tell you that you can come back. And there is a second act for me. And there's a second act for, people out there that have made a mistake.
You're obviously taking this broadcasting role very seriously, seeing as you just won an Emmy for how good you guys were, your group, for broadcasting. You can add this to your long list of accomplishments, which include 3-time MVP, 4-time All-Star, World Series champ, CEO of A-Rod Corp, Fox Sports commentator, special advisor of the Yankees, and Natasha and Ella's daddy. Now, that's your Twitter bio. What's next? What would you like to add to this list? Could we possibly see the titles coach, manager, owner? Are these or could these be future titles?
Look, I'm one that believes that anything's possible, and I never like to close any doors. I don't ever see myself coaching or managing. Um, Team ownership is something that I've always thought about and really dreamt about. But right now, I'm taking it one day at a time. Every day has its challenges, but I'm taking it head on and really enjoying life. I mean, to answer one of your previous questions, I think today is when I'm most content and really appreciating what my life has to offer, starting with, my mother and my daughters and my friends and family.
Being a multi-sport athlete, many coaches are starting to speak out against it, saying that it's better for a kid, especially when they're younger, to focus on one sport, develop that skill, instead of play many sports and never develop a skill in it. Now, what's your opinion on the matter?
Well, I respectfully disagree with those coaches. I actually think that diversity in your time in sports, it's important. I think the only thing that needs your full-time attention is your academic skills, your math, your science, your ability to communicate, learning about financial literacy. But as far as sports is concerned, I feel that the more, the better. So I really disagree with your coaches. And the irony is that one of the things that helped me the absolute most in my high school career was being a quarterback, was being a point guard in basketball. And I thought all those skills that I collected really helped me out in baseball.
You just talked about financial literacy, I believe it was. Have you ever thought about maybe being a teacher in a way to players? You've always talked about how important it is to manage your finances and how to be wise with that. So would you ever think about maybe teaching players in the major leagues and other sports about managing their finances and how to use it and where to invest it? Because I know that from a young age, you invested when you got your first $1 million. So can you tell me if you think that, first off, if you would maybe teach that sort of thing, or maybe if you would like to see that be taught to future major league players?
Yes to all of it. I think there's an enormous need in our sport, and I'll stick to my sport because that's kind of what I know best, is that our athletes today we're in a very fortunate situation to make a great living. But I'm going to share some facts with you. Athletes in my sport probably make about 90% of their money from age 20 to 30. So then the question is, what happens from 31 to 80? Less than 5% of our athletes have a college degree. So if you start collecting information, I would short that stock and say that their future is not going to be very promising. And sometimes if it is, and it turns out well, it's almost a miracle. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity to educate our young athletes, to give them vehicles to protect themselves from themselves. And I think athletes have the capabilities of being incredible business people because they have the tools and the attributes that it takes. Discipline, hard work, relentless, perseverance, grit. All those things is how you would describe a great businessman, but it's also how you would describe an athlete. So I would love to be part of the education process and part of the movement to making athletes a much better businessman and women.
What is your opinion on the new rising star, Aaron Judge? Do you think he has what it takes to be a star player, an amazing player, like many former Yankees?
Not only do I think that he has an opportunity to be a great Yankee, but I also think that you have to elevate the conversation when you talk about a talent like Aaron Judge. I think he could be a great star for our game. I think he's a guy that crosses over. I think he could be a great star in sports, like you would think about a Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or Michael Jordan or LeBron James. He's that kind of figure. He's 6'7", 285 pounds. He's under 10% body fat. He looks like a linebacker, but he moves around like a shortstop. And he's such a unique talent. And he bench presses over 500 pounds. He's a specimen. And if he walked in this room, you wouldn't believe this guy looks like a statue. He hits the ball country mile, and the adjustments that he made this offseason were so great. And I'm so proud of him. And if you met him, Ben, you would say, boy, this is the guy that if I had a daughter, I would want him to marry. He's got great parents. He's got great manners. And what a great role model. If you're a young player like yourself and you love baseball, Aaron Judge is the guy you want to follow.
You recently announced you would be a shark on Shark Tank. I personally love the show with a passion. I will watch it every night and record the entire series. And I will record every single season so much that we will not have enough space in the TV by the time we're done. So, can you tell us what to expect this coming season?
Well, I mean, I can't tell you too much because I'm like you. I love the show. I'm really into the different personalities of the Sharks. I love the show because I get to sit on my couch at home with my daughters, and they love it. And it gives me an opportunity to teach a little financial literacy and get some lessons along the way. And look, the show is phenomenal because it's not only entertaining, but I think you get inspired and you can also learn something. And in many ways, it supports and promotes the American dream of entrepreneur. And there's so many great entrepreneurs in our country today. So many young people with so much talent like yourself that have big dreams and aspirations. And I think for people that are in my position, it is our responsibility and our debt to pay it forward.
Lessons learned. After all the practices and games, if a guy's lucky enough to make it to the big leagues one day, what's your advice on how they should handle the fame that goes along with being a professional athlete?
I would say that staying grounded, surrounding yourself with friends and family that love you and support you, understanding that all of it is temporary and you're on borrowed time. And I would say that if you remember where you came from, and if you remember to appreciate and to be grateful that you're one of 750, that people would kill to wear a uniform, that will keep you grounded. And again, to appreciate every day that comes your way. It is a fake world to be in the major leagues. It is a lot of hard work, but it's a dream. It is fun. It is exciting. And I would just say enjoy every day like it's your last, because it may be your last.
Every athlete wants to be in tip-top shape. What's your exercise routine and diet?
Oh, well, thank you. When I think about fitness, I think about the triangle. And what I mean by the triangle, it's nutrition, it's training hard, and it's recovery and sleeping. Sleeping 8 hours a day plus. I think all three are important and they complement each other. It's not just one. So I try to have balance, and I mix it up pretty much all the time.
So here are some friendly fill-ins. Growing up, I was very good at baseball, but pretty bad at
dancing and singing.
While growing up, I'm sorry, I just have to cut into this. But there is someone who could give you lessons. I think you know this person very well. They have a new show They have a couple shows, but we'll get into that later. So.
I love Ben. He's just like the New York media.
Well, growing up, my favorite athlete was
Cal Ripken and Keith Hernandez.
because
Cal Ripken was a big shortstop, and I wanted to be like him. And Keith Hernandez was the captain of the Mets, and I thought he was a champion and a clutch player.
when I'm not at work or in the office, I enjoy.
I enjoy spending time with my daughters. Doing anything.
My favorite movie is.
Wall Street.
My favorite job is.
Being a third baseman for the New York Yankees and running A-Rod Corp.
My favorite food to eat when I break my diet is.
Chips and pizza.
How often, by the way?
Too often. That's why I'm retired.
My favorite music to listen to work out to is, and it can be favorite music in general. There's a couple good albums out there.
I would say I love Jay-Z and I love 80s rock. And now I'm dating myself. 80s rock.
My favorite actor or actress is.
Actors Michael Douglas.
My favorite TV show is. There's dance shows. There's cop shows. There's a couple different shows out there.
My favorite show. Shades of Blue.
Thank you very much for this interview, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you, and best of luck to you.
Thank you. We hope you enjoyed seeing this interview as much as I enjoyed speaking with Alex. Alex, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. For more stories just like this, stay tuned till next year. Till then, stay golden, Wolverines. For WBLN, I'm Benjamin Cure, signing off.